SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Ford of Corinth has trucks built Ford tough with powerful engines and rugged exteriors. Whether you're hauling cargo, towing a trailer, or just need a reliable daily driver, Ford of Corinth has the truck for you, which includes a lifetime powertrain warranty. FordofCorinth.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Hey, what's up? Good morning. Welcome to the start of a new day. Tuesday morning, July the 8th. Why am I 2 days off? Yesterday was the 7th. I called it the 9th. I almost just called it the 10th.
You're not using an old day planner or something, are you?
No,
okay.
No, I don't know. Boy, that's something I need to do.
Like get a day planner?
Yeah. I start with the greatest of intentions.
Oh, yeah.
And, go through and write a bunch of stuff down, and then I never add anything to it, and I don't keep up with it, and I don't look at it.
Well, I end up
what's the point?
I end up spilling coffee on it or something in a hurry in the car, and then I'm like, man, I should have just done digital.
Yeah, I guess so. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We're glad to be with you. Glad to be starting the day with you. Hope you have, if you're up and perking along, whatever it is that gets you going in the morning, a hot cup of coffee, I don't know, ice cold, fresh squeezed orange juice.
I like good.
Fireball, whatever it is that gets you going in the morning.
Great political debate.
Yeah,
that gets me going, man.
I was afraid something was wrong this morning, Lance. I woke up and I saw a text message from you.
Yeah, what was it?
And it was a bit incendiary.
Yes,
but I didn't immediately read it. I was like, okay, I'll check this in a second.
That's a way to wake up right there.
Golly, what has fired him up so much already this morning? I'm like, I was 11 o'clock last night. Never mind.
That was last night.
It's all right.
I'd already woken up
he's
and
gonna
eaten
be okay
ribs.
this
I'll
morning.
be fine. But yeah, I mean, it's just some of that stuff just gets on my nerves. It's like, the people out there just have a tendency to, get under your skin at times. So, and, you don't want to blow your lid, but I don't understand the direction a chunk of the country wants to think at this point. I just don't. So, and I try to stay level-headed, but sometimes I'll, lose a little bit of sanity, trying to wonder, where are we going with all this craziness?
Somebody says the Skylight calendar and app is the way to go.
Okay.
So get out of the Microsoft, Apple world.
Yes. Yeah, then I could see what you are doing.
And then go to the Skylight calendar. What do you mean you could see?
I can't see the Apple stuff because I'm a Android guy. So yeah, I know who's on today, like last night. So I don't really, I can't keep up with the Apple calendar you guys have. So yeah. So yeah, if y'all went with more of a Microsoft, I'd be all in on this, man. I have way too much information.
A chance for some rain today across the state of Mississippi. Duncan, partly cloudy with thunderstorms becoming likely during the afternoon. High of 91 degrees. Winds out of the southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance of rain about 80% today. Over in the northern part of the Delta. West Point, you've got partly cloudy skies this morning with some scattered thunderstorms later today. 40% chance of rain. Laurel, going to be nice. 93 for the high, sunny. Few clouds. Humidity in the mid-60%, which is kind of status quo this time of the year. Port Gibson, sunshine and clouds, mixed, stray shower, thunderstorm possible. High of 91. Winds light and variable in the city. Too beautiful to burn.
Well, did you pick Duncan because it is equidistant, but from Clarksdale to Cleveland, or was it just kind of you wanted to throw out see if anybody knew where Duncan was this morning? That's a good one. That's a good spot.
I don't have a lot of rationale. I will tell you, I am trying to vary up the 4 cities that or the 4 communities that I give weather for, specifically when we're doing this each morning. And I have downloaded a map of the state of Mississippi with a bunch of cities on it. But no, Duncan was not on the map that I downloaded. That's I used to cut a little bit of grass there, and my wife had a close friend, family that lived there, and
it's one of those. It's if you don't know where it is, you wouldn't know. Yeah. Like Hush,
IYKYK. Yeah. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. What is it? Hush Puckna or Hush Pecana or is just south of that. I always mess it up. So I know somebody this morning will tell me Hush Pecana or Hush Pecana or something like that.
Yeah,
that's on down there. But that's a great area. I love that. So that's Matthew Duff country over there. That's Alligator, Mississippi. There's another big name that came from that neck of the woods too.
I believe that's Tony Gator Bennett.
I was about to say, Gator Bennett from over yonder. So that's good hunting.
Gentle giant, Tony Gator Bennett.
Man, what a beast too.
John Pemberton was born on this day in 1831. Do you know who John Pemberton is? Born in Knoxville, Georgia. He was a pharmacist and the inventor of Coca-Cola. Thanks, John.
It's good stuff. That original recipe. Can't find it anymore.
Wait. You mean like the original recipe?
Yeah, the one that had the Coke in it?
Yeah.
The Coca-Cola.
John D. Rockefeller also was born on this day in 1839, American industrialist and founder of Standard Oil. He was born in Richford, New York. Not the only Rockefeller born this day. Nelson Rockefeller, born in 1908, American politician. Vice President of the United States, served under Gerald Ford. They talked about Rockefeller Republicans, which some would say were no Republicans at all because they were a little too far to the middle or maybe a little too far to the left. Prior to being the vice president, he was the governor of New York, held that position for 4 terms from 1959 to 1973, born in Bar Harbor, Maine. Bar Harbor, Maine. I was trying to get that out, and it didn't work out.
That'd be a nice family to grow up in if you appreciated the finer things in life, probably. Mm-hmm. Standard Oil Company, that was kind of a big deal.
It was.
Yeah, kind of a big
deal.
There
was a reasonably large-sized fortune that went along with that family.
Yeah.
Toby Keith was born on this day in 1961. Lost him way too soon. Maybe he just should have been a cowboy. Man, Toby Keith was great. Just absolutely fantastic.
I don't know anybody that doesn't like Toby Keith, either as a person or his music. I mean, he just put out so many great hits, very patriotic, such a likable guy.
Some of those people that like letting 12 million illegals into the country probably weren't big fans of his.
Yeah. Maybe so. I don't think they like too much country music anyway.
Because he put a boot in your ass.
Yeah, I don't think they like country music anyway. So
it's the American way, baby. Yeah. This day in 1776, Colonel John Nixon gives the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence to an assemblage of citizens in Philadelphia. The language is kind of high and mighty. It's kind of high church language. But I get, did they talk that way or just write that way?
Yeah.
I don't know. And how rapt was that audience? How attentive were they as Colonel Nixon was standing and reading the Declaration of Independence? Probably. It was a pretty big deal. I mean, the words mattered.
I think they kind of spoke that way, though, too. It was a very, there was a lot of loyalist nature to England.
Hear ye.
Exactly, so.
1796, the U.S. State Department issued the first ever U.S. passport.
And then a day later, somebody had a illicit one they had made.
Probably so. And how about this? We go to Hattiesburg, Mississippi for this. 1889. John L. Sullivan, successfully defended the last officially sanctioned bare knuckle world heavyweight prize fighting championship. He was facing off against Jake Kilrain. They went at it for a while. In fact, Kilrain's trainer was the one that stopped the fight. He threw the towel in after 75 one-minute rounds.
Man, that's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, that's like your face would be like hamburger meat. Both
bare knuckle heavyweight championship, 75 one-minute rounds. Kilrain's trainer finally says he had enough. This was near Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
75 one-minute rounds, bare knuckle against the man, John L. Yeah,
1913, Alfred Carlton Gilbert's patent for the erector set is issued. Became one of the most popular toys of all time. And finally, here was a popular toy. Do you remember the Aerobie?
Oh, yeah.
The Frisbee with the hole in the middle.
And dogs love them, too, to chew them up.
Oh, yeah. Set a record for the farthest thrown object. An Aerobie flying ring, 1,257 feet. I'm having trouble making that compute.
Is that like downhill?
Down
a mountainside or something?
News headlines and your text messages coming up next on the C Spire text line. Good morning. It's MRC on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Hey, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
You know, the problem with phonetic spelling is not everybody spells phonetically the same way, because we've got both Hushpuckina and Hushpuckina as the proper pronunciations.
Right.
That puts you in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. It must be an Indian name.
C Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Every sports fan can tell you fast speeds win games. That's why C Spire brings you fiber home internet, nationwide 5G wireless and IT solutions that move as fast as your business. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. There are probably 3 to 5 people in Duncan that listen to you guys.
Hey, they say that the Hushpuckina means sunflowers are abundant in the local Indian Choctaw. So,
well, hold on a second. We just got 2 pronunciations.
Yeah, I butchered.
And you went with a different one.
Yeah. Hushpuckina. Or Hushpuckina. I don't know, man. That was a tough one.
Hushpuckina is what we've been given, and you went with Hushpuckania.
Okay, well, that was more Mexican. I'm sorry. That's got a little of my, my worker in me. But yeah, the sunflowers are abundant is what that means apparently in Choctaw. So
okay,
yeah, like Pontotoc means land of the hanging grapes. So,
and somebody said, the 3 to 5 people. I mean, per capita, that's a pretty large percentage.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned
the population of an area.
Never actually known exactly how to say that. I'm like Booger Den, that's easy, but Hushpuckina. Now I know.
Now you know.
Now I know.
Doesn't mean you're going to pronounce it
No,
properly,
I'll forget it, yeah.
But at least
I'll butcher it.
At least you know.
Knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Hey, I was telling you in the break, this is the day that the newspaper magazine out there in Roswell dropped a flying saucer has crashed in the desert. And so that's History Channel basically got their first start there, because that's basically everything that's on History Channel now, or YouTube is aliens are here. So
I think I've told you before that at the end of the 2008 presidential cycle, I worked for Senator McCain's campaign for the last couple of weeks, and it was putting events on. And the last event we did was in Roswell, New Mexico.
You go to the Little Alien?
no. But on the media credentials that we had to make up and like the VIP credentials, we had little flying saucers on them.
I love it.
I've got one of those somewhere.
Yeah, you got to fish that out and wear it every now and again.
We got a lot going on. State Treasurer David McRae announced yesterday that the state has earned a record-breaking $1 billion in interest since 2020 in the funds that he has overseen. That's from interest income from the general fund and special funds. General fund is a large collection of money utilized to handle the common everyday governmental affairs. The special funds intended to support specific operations tied to a specific revenue source. The Treasury invests surplus monies collected by the state to maximize earning potential. Per McRae, roughly $450 million of the $1 billion accrued through interest income has been directly deposited into the general fund, giving lawmakers more opportunities to fund additional projects. That's a nice thing about having a lot of money, is when you have a big old pile of money and interest and compound interest are allowed to do their thing, the pile of money that you have gets bigger. I wish I had a big pile of money to let interest do its thing so that it would get bigger.
Yeah, interest is a wonderful thing when you let it compound and keep rolling for you. Don't have to pay tax on it.
As long as it's not compounding against you.
Yeah. No, you don't want to have to take the tax out and all that on your income. And great to have a sheltered account for that.
In addition to that, David McRae's been involved in returning historic levels of unclaimed money to Mississippians. We've talked with him about that before. State Treasury returned $40 million to Mississippians that was money that they were owed by the government. Just didn't know it or had moved or whatever else. So, cool stuff on the monetary front here in the Magnolia State. A pair of juveniles are charged after 3 school buses were lit on fire outside of a Mississippi high school, H.W. Byers High School in Holly Springs, to be specific. Marshall County Sheriff Kenny Dickerson said that the buses were completely destroyed. Fire was determined to be arson, and they figured, well, we better get on this and see who did it. And they figured it out and made 2 arrests, the names of which are not yet being released. So a random Saturday adjacent to the 4th of July weekend in the middle of the summer, you're hanging out with your buddies and somebody has the bright idea, hey, let's go burn us a school bus. And your buddy goes, I got a better idea. Let's burn 3 of them.
That's not the best idea you got. You can find something better to do for the summer.
Bad plan, fellas. The former treasurer for the Caledonia Park Commission has pleaded guilty to embezzlement, according to Shad White, the Office of the State Auditor. Megan Berry admitted to stealing thousands of dollars that came into her possession by virtue of her employment with the commission that oversees the city's public parks. Then she put the money in her own pocket. 5 years of supervision, ordered to pay $12,256.65 in restitution plus $600 in fines. Shad White's office reminds you that if you suspect fraud or if you want to report it, you can reach out to their office. Go to the state auditor's website or give them a call at 1-800-321-1275. Had a rash of these announcements lately.
Yeah.
Well, Panola County a week ago and over in Caledonia this week. Told you that the Highway Patrol was going to be out in force this past weekend. They were. And they were busy. Concluded the Independence Day holiday travel period, reporting over 4,800 citations and 1 fatal crash. 74 arrests for impaired driving, 577 seatbelt violations, 90 crashes resulting in 34 injuries and 1 fatality on July 6th. 12:21 p.m., Highway Patrol responded to a 2-vehicle crash on Mississippi 28 in Simpson County. Chevy Tahoe, driven by 22-year-old Jadarian Burton, was traveling east when it collided with a 2020 Ford F-150, driven by 77-year-old Judith Polk with a passenger. Polk and Polk were transported to the McGee General Hospital. Burton passed away fatally. Well, fatal injuries from the crash, pronounced dead at the scene. Tough stuff. 3 of the 4 elections that will be held to fill vacancies in the state legislature are coming on November 4th. 3 of the 4 elections are to fill vacancies in the legislature. And then you got a tax collector seat mixed in there as well. Senate District 24, Senate District 26, House District 26, and then a special election for mayor in Jackson. I'm sorry, no, that's not right. For tax collector in Pearl River County. Senate District 24, occupied by David Jordan, announces retirement after 33 years. District 26, John Horn's busy. He's got to run the city of Jackson now. Can't sit in the legislature anymore. And House District 26, Orlando Payton, he became the mayor of Clarksdale. Special election for tax collector. This story in Pearl River County is wild. So the precincts involved in the special election in Pearl River County, Picayune Southside 1 and Picayune 2. The results will be added to the totals from the county's other 25 precincts from a previous election. This comes after a circuit court judge ruled in December of 2023 that 2 votes were illegally cast in a runoff election that had Sandy Kane Smith losing to JoLynn Houston by 3 votes.
Is it the longest election in history or what?
Meanwhile, Gary Beach has acted as the county's tax collector. I wonder if Sandy Kane or JoLynn either still want the job. It's like, I've had a couple of years to think about this.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Jeez.
Just move on.
Wow.
Christopher Posey will become a circuit court judge for the 8th Circuit Court District, which encompasses Leake, Neshoba, Newton, and Scott counties. His appointment follows the retirement of the Honorable Mark Duncan. He's been in that spot for 8 years. Posey, Philadelphia native, Ole Miss alum, began practicing law in 2006. In 2016, he served as an assistant district attorney for the 8th Circuit Court District. Served as lead or co-counsel in over 125 jury trials. His term begins on July 15th. He's going to serve the remainder of this 4-year term. So, congratulations to Judge Posey. All-around good guy. We're back after this.
Wake up! Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Somebody told me when I first got to Nashville, oh, you finally got it made. Old Hank made it here. We're all sure that you will, but I don't think Hank done it this way. Did old Hank really?
Time for your sports update on Mornings with Richard Cross, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Visit them online at pearlriverresort.com, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Pearl River Resort. If you want to join in the conversation, you can do so on the C Spire text line. I've come to a conclusion, Lance. It's big breaking news. Just hold on a little while longer. It's going to get better. That's the conclusion to which I've come. Because
just hang on.
If you are a fan of sports, it feels like you are currently wandering blindly and aimlessly in the desert. Unless, Wimbledon is your thing and you're just locked in on every match that's happening at Wimbledon, or maybe you still live and die with every pitch in Major League Baseball. Okay, you got some action there. Maybe the NBA Summer League is your thing.
Yeah.
Well, okay. But outside of that, not a whole lot. But it's going to get better. We got the British Open coming up in a couple of weeks. A lot of people really like that golf event. Got the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby next week. Oh, okay, there you go. But let me remind you that we will get to October, and we will begin that stretch of 40 or 50 days where there is a football game of some sort on television available to you every single day for almost 2 months. It is coming. Bide your time, save your energy, store up for the winter, all of those things. Get all the honeydews done now so that when the time comes, you are fully ready.
Yeah, and you can start preparing your menu items and putting them in the freezer, getting everything. If you're that bored and ready for sports, you can do some prep work.
You can work on some of those poppers now. Yeah. Freeze them where all you got to do is
pull them out, ready to go.
Yeah. Nice story out of Texas. The Houston Texans announced Saturday that the organization is donating $500,000 to help support those affected by the devastating floods that hit Central Texas last week. The National Football League announced that between the Texans, Cowboys, and the NFL Foundation, they've now contributed more than $1.5 million to relief efforts, and man, those efforts are big time necessary. The people of Central Texas in the Hill Country going to need a lot of help in the coming days, weeks, months, and unfortunately probably years. This news came out last night. Chase Parham from Inside the Rebels was the first one that I saw that had the report. Kelvin Bolden, who is one of the architects of Ole Miss football recruiting, in conjunction with staff and others. I mean, it's not a standalone thing, but he's considered to be a rising star in the business. Well, he's leaving Oxford. And of all places, he's headed to Baton Rouge. The Tigers' general manager is former Ole Miss staff member Austin Thomas. Bolden, vital part of the Rebels' recruiting effort since 2022. Got a bunch of ties in the state of Mississippi, played at Southern Miss. He's from Perkiston. Prior to his time at Ole Miss, he worked for Gus Malzahn at UCF. Had stops at Florida, Southern Miss, and Arkansas. First college coaching experience was at Pearl River Community College. He was one of the people that Ole Miss was looking at as a tight ends coach back in 2024, but does not appear that he is going to be on the staff moving forward.
Yeah, it says a promotion, right? It's like assistant
general manager.
General manager, yeah.
Like that.
The guy's done a great job of recruiting. I just hate to see him go, but
absolutely.
Anytime you get that call, you get that big money thrown at you.
Opportunity.
Opportunity knocks.
And I read that story and I went, ugh.
Yeah, I was like, man, that's late too in this. Hate to lose him this late, but
Pearl River Resort is your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. They bring you the sports update every morning. Pearl River Resort online at pearlriverresort.com. Ray in Long Beach said he was a little later than normal getting into the truck this morning, and he said, yes, the story on the Pearl River County folks is strange. Said he lived in Picayune for 29 years before moving to Long Beach. Yeah, go to supertalk.fm if you want to read that story in its entirety. Donald Trump hosted Bibi Netanyahu and his wife Sarah at the White House for dinner last night, and Netanyahu had some news for the President of the United States. He has nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize, and he gave Trump a copy of the nominating letter. Said that the honor was well-deserved. Trump has long called himself a master peacemaker, and he made clear his desire for the Nobel Peace Prize, but said he would never get it. Said the nomination was news to him and said to Bibi Netanyahu, coming from you, this is very meaningful.
Has a king ever, I don't think a king has ever won the Nobel Peace Prize, other than Martin Luther King, but I don't think a king like Trump has ever won.
Lance? No kings.
No kings. Oh, yeah, that's my bad.
Trump also mentioned last night that he's going to send more weapons to Ukraine. Came days after the administration ordered a pause on the delivery of critical weapons. Said, quote, we have to send more, close quote, because they have to be able to defend themselves. Said Ukraine is getting hit very, very hard by Russia right now. The Pentagon did not immediately have a comment for that. That situation is not getting much better.
No, it's just going to continue. neither party has any love for the other, but
which is a nice way of saying they hate each other.
No love is their motto, I think. So, when you hate each other that bad and it goes deep into the blood, there's just no easy settlement. I mean, even in the Middle East, but I mean, this one here, there's a recency bias as well to what's been going on, and whether you like Zelensky or not, that's kind of irrelevant at this point. They were attacked by an aggressor, similar to Israel, attacked by an aggressor, and you got to stand with those that are trying to protect their country and their people.
Yeah. Jerry in Corinth is arguing for more attention to Major League Baseball. He says he's an MLB guy. He says, go Rays. Hard to get into college football for me until Major League Baseball is over. Then I put most of my attention on college football. He says, I think I'm the only one, nobody even to talk about it with, really. He said, I'll stop, but so many exciting rookies right now in the big leagues. How do you not watch MLB? I don't know. I mean, I used to be, watch a lot of it. Now it's just kind of here and there. I keep up with it, but
I break it about the All-Star break is when I really start, paying attention more. I like the festivities surrounding the All-Star break. It's always been kind of my time for tuning in.
Yeah.
Baseball's such a long season.
Yeah, it is.
And then, get to that All-Star break, you got the sprint to the finish. You got a lot of great stuff happening there at the break. And then it seems like everybody that's really in the hunt or is going to be, really, makes a move. You see it quickly. And the ball just seems to get more excited. I mean, to me, that's just my opinion as a baseball guy.
Yesterday, you had an attempted murder on ICE officers in Texas. And the U.S. Attorney's Office is wasting no time. Take a listen.
Tell you that late at night on July 4th, Friday night at approximately 10:37 p.m. at the Prairieland ICE Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas, 10 to 12 individuals dressed in black military-style clothing began shooting fireworks and engaging in acts of vandalism at the facility. And this was part of an organized attack. Today, my office has charged 10 individuals with 3 counts of attempted murder of a federal officer. Each of the 10 are also charged with 3 counts of discharging a firearm in relation to a crime of violence. Each of these defendants faces a mandatory prison term of 10 years and up to life in prison. An additional co-conspirator was charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy for attempting to conceal and destroy evidence in relation to the attack. And he faces up to 10 years in prison. Let's discuss the incident. It was a planned ambush with the intent to kill ICE corrections officers. Make no mistake, this was not a so-called peaceful protest. It was indeed an ambush.
Oof. Started out with fireworks, and it got a whole lot worse from there. That was a press conference with the Department of Justice yesterday, one of the assistant U.S. attorneys.
That was what I texted you so late. It lit me up, man. Are you kidding me? Going through that story, too, and reading the names of those that were the shooters and the criminals, it just blows my mind.
Yeah. There's more to it than fireworks. The fireworks were a distraction, right?
Yeah, the fireworks were the distraction. You had green masks, you had AR-15 style rifles, and 20 to 30 shots fired. One of them shot him in the neck when the guy came to talk to him, one of the officers. It was a complete ambush, and it was a setup. And then they all ran like cowards, and then most of them got caught other than one.
Yeah, so those of you that are saying, hold on, what's the statute of limitations on attempted murder with fireworks? I shot a lot of my friends back in the day. No. It was not fireworks that they were shooting at the officers. That was the distraction.
That was the bait.
The bait. Bad deal. DOJ going after him. We'll be right back.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
Now that's entertainment.
Quick update from the Mississippi Lottery. Visit mslottery.com. If you want all the numbers, all the winning numbers, the website is mslottery.com. You can go there and keep up with whether or not you won. Don't forget those non-winning tickets. The scratch-offs can be re-entered into the second chance drawings with a chance to win big money. There was no jackpot winner last night for Powerball, which means Wednesday night's drawing is up to $216 million with an estimated cash value of $98.4 million. No jackpot winner in the most recent Mega Millions drawing. $70 million is the estimated jackpot for tonight's drawing with an estimated cash value of $31.3 million. The Mississippi Lottery is coming to a town near you to show off your local lottery retailers. Visit MS Lottery on Facebook and tune in at 10 o'clock today to see the team on the road for a special Facebook Live at one of the lottery's newest retailers in Gluckstadt. Follow the Mississippi Lottery on Facebook and tune in at 10 a.m. this morning. And don't forget about the new hot summer games, $2 Heat Stroke, $5 Blazing Hot Bucks, and $10 Red Hot Cash for your chance to win in the Mississippi Lottery's newest bonus promo, Sizzlin' Summer Cash. Your shot at prizes from $500 to $25,000. Visit mslottery.com and click the bonus promos tab for full details. That's mslottery.com. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. We are glad to be with you on this Tuesday morning, the 8th of July. Lance, one of the frustrations that exists for a lot of people when they travel via airplane is the security line at the airport. You have to go through the TSA security line and put your bags in the bins and take your shoes off and all that good stuff. Now, there are ways that you can avoid taking your shoes off, like if you have TSA pre-check or you have the Clear or the TSA Clear Plus. All those keep you from taking your shoes off, but, you go through the line in the normal TSA line, and you have to you have to wait on people to unlace their shoes and take them off and set them in the bin. They get to the other end, and they got to put their shoes back on, and it's just a hassle. And I don't know how effective it is, but it's something they make you do, or at least made you do. Apparently, according to a report from ABC, TSA, under the direction of President Trump, is going to allow passengers to keep their shoes on going through security.
They got the Richard Reed, the shoe bomber. Ever since then, we've had to worry about that.
I guess.
No, I mean, I remember.
One guy spoils it for everything.
It's usually the way it is, huh?
Yeah. So no more shoe removal. Nice. I'm always amused when you see the folks that are traveling in flip-flops. Yeah. They have to go bare feet on the floor. Now, I'm not one of those folks that gets weird about, we stepped on a dirty floor with bare feet. But some people are really, really strange about that.
I mean, at an airport? No, I mean, I'm not going to take a chance. You know what I'm saying?
You're going to pretend like the shower in the locker room where you were standing in there bare feet washing, it wasn't nastier than the airport floor?
I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of airports, so I'm sure as you have. Yeah. It's kind of like going to Walmart at midnight sometimes. You get an interesting crew. But, again, I'm not one that's that offended by somebody.
Not a big germaphobe?
Nah, not at all, really. But, I don't know if I'd be risking it in an airport just because of the nature of, where you are.
Yeah.
Somebody roll over your foot in one of those big old,
The one that frustrates
suitcases.
Me, so, I've got all the pre-check stuff and Clear and all of that. And if you don't have that particular line open, they give you the little card, so you go through the metal detector instead of the full body scanner, and you don't have to take your shoes off. And I guess that's nice, but they make you take your laptop, iPad, whatever you got out of your bag as it's going through security, and it's like, come on, man.
That's kind of like the Disney.
What are we doing?
Is that like the Disney Speed Pass for flying? There's the quicker side, and then you have the normal.
Yes.
Okay. I hadn't flown in a bit, so I do like flying. But, man, it's gotten to be a pain in the butt with all that stuff over the years. It seemed like every time I flew, too, I mean, I'd be in a suit and all this, and, I mean, I'd have to go into this little side thing, and they'd, like, dude, it's a business trip, man. There's some dude back here that you ought to strip search him. But no, I got to the point where I just didn't enjoy it too much anymore.
No, I understand that.
Yeah,
it
so
can
can.
certainly be a hassle. For the longest time, my wife didn't have pre-check, and I was like, you have got to go and do this. We'll go to the airport together and get the kids, and they can go through the line with me, but you've got to go through the regular security line. She finally got that, and she was like, I really can't believe I went this long without doing the pre-check thing. And a lot of people, if you've got a credit card will reimburse you for that anyway. It doesn't even cost you anything. It's just the hassle of doing it. So, all right, so I said, what's the difference between Clear and pre-check? Clear's the retina scan deal where you just kind of stand in front of the thing and they escort you to the front of the line. So not every airport's got that, though, so it depends on where you travel as to whether or not that makes sense. All right, news is next in 7 o'clock hour.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
It's time to switch on. Mornings with Richard Cross. On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Maria, there was some blue and sorrow times. Just my thoughts about you bring back my peace of mind. Gypsy lady, you're a miracle work for me. You set my soul free like a ship sailing on the sea.
This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you along for the ride. Love to hear from you. C-Spire text line is open. Your team has you covered on the field. C-Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home, work, and on the go, backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. We appreciate you starting your day with us. This morning of the show is brought to you by MWG Employer. This hour of the show brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. MWG Employer Services is here to help. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. I got a lot to get to this morning. Got guests that are coming up a little bit later in the show, about half an hour from right now. Ty Pinkins is going to join the conversation. He is a candidate for the United States Senate seat that will be up for election in the a year and a half from now, I guess it is. Ty Pinkins was a Democrat. He is now an independent. We'll talk with him about his decision to make that move not too very long ago. Also, Joel Anand Samy is going to join us from America's Roundtable radio program. He's co-founder of the International Leaders Summit. You know Joel by now. We'll talk with him about that visit by Netanyahu to the White House yesterday and more about what is happening in the Middle East. That is all coming up as we continue with you. Got news yesterday as we near the deadline for tariff implementation. By the way, that does seem to be a moving target on the actual days, that Japan and South Korea have a 25% tax coming. Trump yesterday placed a 25% tax on goods imported from Japan and South Korea, citing persistent trade imbalances with a couple of crucial allies that the United States has in Asia. Trump provided notice on the tariffs to begin on August 1st by posting letters on Truth Social that were addressed to the leaders of both countries. The letters warned both countries to not retaliate by increasing their own import taxes, or else the Trump administration would further increase tariffs themselves. Now, the letters that were sent out raised some eyebrows. It was almost like it was a form letter where there was some copy and paste, and the salutations. One of the letters went to a female country leader, and it was written as "Dear Mister." And it was perhaps surely they fixed that before they actually sent the letters. So we've got another tariff deadline that is looming this week. Trump sparked a bit of hysteria in the financial markets back in the spring, you may remember. Although, was it really? We were talking with Peter Costa last week, and he's like, yeah, it's like that's just all kind of baked into the market right now. There was a short-term hysteria in which the market dropped, and then it rallied, and we've had all-time highs. There were 3 consecutive days of all-time highs within the market. A little bit of fluctuation yesterday. Dow futures overnight down, less than 1/100 of a point. S&P futures are up. NASDAQ futures are up. Oil's down just a little bit. The U.S. Treasury is up. And there is now some thought that the Fed is actually going to lower the key interest rate. By 250 basis points? Is that what we're looking at, Lance? I
think so, yeah.
A quarter point,
usually,
and then perhaps another quarter point drop.
You always go with the quarter, but you hope they don't move too quickly with halves. That's usually been my gut instinct. Quarters usually are you're not trying to overcorrect something. The data looks like, upsy daisy, we need to accelerate this. You want it to be gradual anytime you're working with interest rates.
Yeah. So in all, the tariff letters that are going out, 14 countries in total are facing steep blanket tariffs starting August 1st. A social media post yesterday shared screenshots of form letters dictating new tariff rates to the leaders of Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, South Africa, Laos, or Lao, as some people say in Myanmar. Later in the day, shared another set of 7 more letters to the leaders of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Tunisia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Serbia, Cambodia, and Thailand. Goods imported to the U.S. from Japan and South Korea, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, and Tunisia now set to face 25% tariffs. South Africa and Bosnia going to face 30% U.S. tariffs. Indonesia, 32%, 35% for Cambodia and Thailand. And, I'm sorry, that was for Bangladesh and Serbia. Cambodia and Thailand, 36%. Laos and Myanmar, 40% duties as well. And then in the letter, Trump wrote that countries will perhaps face adjusted tariff levels depending on our relationship with your country. Is he even actually worried about tariffs anymore?
Well, if you look at the markets, I think you got to always look at the technical analysis and the fundamentals and make sure that you can absorb those things. We've run into a 2-year growth cycle on the major indices. Mm-hmm. Generally, you're going to get a reset or a kind of a stabilization where it'll drop a bit and then it'll want to grow again. So I guess as long as you're paying great attention to the macro and the micro, and you also are looking at the global health and then the technical analysis. So they've got a bunch of experts there. So I'm sure that the market has rebounded after March, late March, where you had the spike.
April 2nd was Liberation Day.
Yeah. So it looks good, and I think you have more room on the upside here if you dropped interest rates and such. You probably will get a little bit more out of this top. Eventually, though, markets are going to want to resettle and then give themselves an opportunity to go on another longer-term growth run. So, it's the severity of the turnaround. If you don't want a recession, but you definitely need a pause every now and again to let everything kind of catch back up. So a lot has happened since 2023. So I would imagine a settling at some point, but I can't say that I don't see more room on the upside. Doesn't mean it's going to come, but a lot of these global policies and tariffs, interest rates, all of those things have a lot to do with where we go from here.
Yeah. All of these tariff announcements from yesterday are lower than what they were originally when they were announced on April 2nd. Laos goes from 48% to 40%. I won't read all of these to you. Thailand stays flat at 36%. Bangladesh drops from 37 to 35. Kazakhstan was a 27% tariff. They've dropped that to 25%. Tunisia down 3% from 28 to 25 as well. Markets closed down a little bit yesterday, but nothing major. And again, the market doesn't really seem to be reacting much to these numbers. Here's one thing you do need to know, though. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think it was. The tariff revenue that is coming into the United States has been significant. Over $100 billion has come into the United States in the form of tariff revenue that wasn't previously there. So, I don't know. There's something to that. BRICS does not like the tariff plan.
Yeah, well, BRICS is they're going to have a problem with it, but at the end of the day, you're trying to level this playing field. That's the basic game. And two, you don't want BRICS to grow at a rate in which is sustainable for them, but not us. You've got to pair this baby up so that there is trading parity. And BRICS, they have had a massive growth in the last decade. And adding Malaysia, you got about 40% of the world's population that's going to be housed within the BRICS. So you got to stay competitive.
That's the developing nations countries.
Well, they were, I would say. They were probably still developing some. Some are on the
more so than others.
That. Yeah.
Trump going to take a trip to Texas on Friday. It's announced that is when he will visit the site, and said a couple of days ago would have gone sooner, but we would just be in the way. The first responders need a little more time to kind of do their thing and take care of the immediate needs before you have a presidential envoy that's on its way in. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Some of your thoughts, some of your questions coming in. We'll get to those on the other side of the break. And what about this Elon problem? How much of a problem is the America Party? We'll get to that as well. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
People want to hear the truth, man. That's what we're going to do.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Glad to be with you alongside Lance Tolbert. Welcome your messages on the C-Spire text line. Quick reminder, the 13th annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon is now just 2 days away. It's coming up on Thursday right here on Super Talk, Mississippi. Every year, children across Mississippi need a loving home, and many times these children are caught in unimaginable circumstances, and that is why we need your help. You will learn how Palmer Home for Children serves vulnerable children. It's a faith-based organization that doesn't take government money, so we need your help. We want you to tune in. We want you to join us. We want you to consider donating to Palmer Home for Children with the 13th annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon right here on Super Talk, Mississippi. That starts at 6 a.m. on Thursday morning. And it will go all day long until Sports Talk Mississippi wraps up at 6 in the afternoon. It's also the day where Brian Haydad has to pay up.
Uh-oh.
And I'm not talking about for Palmer Home. A few years ago, we started a year-long sports bet that it was like cumulative Ole Miss, Mississippi State stuff throughout the season. There are different point values aside to different sports, but it was football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, softball, and soccer. I think those were the sports that we included. And in the first 2 years of the friendly wager, Lance, I finished in second place.
Right.
In the two-person competition.
This is where the other team.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or something along those lines. So the first year he had me wear 3 different Mississippi State jerseys. It was football, basketball, baseball, one for each hour in the afternoon. And last year it was Bulldog Initiative gear, hat and pull over.
NIL sponsoring.
Yeah, it was promoting them. So Brian Haydad will he finished in second place this year in the 2-person competition, and so it is time for him to pay the piper.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What is the price he must pay?
You can find out at 3:00 on Thursday afternoon.
Thursday, good. I will.
Now, not that Haydad actually is up and listening right now. I don't want to spoil it, but somebody might tell him, and we want it to be a surprise.
Well, you still owe me a lunch, so
I know.
Got to collect on that.
I'm good for it.
Yeah.
Just at some point
porterhouse.
When we're in the same place. I probably should just send you a gift certificate at this point. Be like, hey, buddy, I'd love to dine with you, but
probably ain't happening. Yeah.
I don't want you to think I'm welching. Let's go to the C Spire text line. Thomas said a second ago, coming into America, who pays the tariffs? That's what he was talking about. Thomas, I think you are intellectually sophisticated enough to know that answer has layers to it. Do we pay more at the checkout for items that we take a little bit on a regular basis because of the tariffs? Yeah, I guess that's possible. But we're not eating all the cost of that. And prices really don't seem to be escalating beyond their normal escalation points. Maybe a little, but not a lot. I mean, I think we all should almost be conditioned to prices going up at this point because that's what they do and that's what they have done.
Yeah, well, that's always going to happen when you run your monetary system as the world does. I mean, prices are not going down.
Not going down.
Yeah, let's be realistic.
Regardless, though, you can't argue with the tariff money that is being funneled into the United States that wasn't coming in previously. Like that's true. Just period.
It's also a leveraging tool. I mean, you're showing you're serious to a bunch of folks who you've been trading with for decades that have taken advantage of you. And so let's be honest here. It is not only just making money for the coffers of the United States. It's trying to create a balance so that the products that we import and export are on some level of parity with one another rather than...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's also value for our exports. It's not just about,
one thing.
We maybe pay more. I mean, there are layers to...
Why do you think China doesn't want tariffs placed on goods that we send them? Or because they don't want to pay more either. But
right.
That's the whole point is it's...
you're charging us more.
Yeah, so, I mean, you've got to use the best tools in the toolbox to level the playing field. And then that's where we are here. Obviously, they were not able to get fair trade and level trade over the years doing it the traditional way. So here you go. This is the option that has been put on the table. Will it work? We'll find out, right? I mean, no one knows the outcome of how all this is going to play out. But so far, the markets have stabilized. We haven't seen the global economy blow up as many thought it was going to.
Yeah,
it hadn't. I think we overreact to a lot of things.
And look, this is a reasonable message. I'm not worried about outside tariffs. Look at the egg providers inside our country. And it was bird flu related for a little while.
It is, but we also have to get better at consuming the things that we make here. Andy Gibson will talk about that. We grow so many wonderful products here in Mississippi. And sometimes getting them to a market in which we can consume them has been some of the barrier. So, again, if we want healthier produce, healthier food, then eating more local, having the markets to get those things and those being readily available, so on and so forth. This is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't turn a light bulb on and everything's all of a sudden illuminated here. This is a process.
Yeah.
Just like recruiting business back into the state. You don't all of a sudden go, okay, we just got 4,200 companies come in. No, it's a process, and it takes a team of people working hard, getting out there, rolling the sleeves up, doing the things that they're doing, and then you'll start seeing green shoots of organic growth. And I think we'll see that here as well if we continue and hold pat. But you don't want to cave in.
Fortenberry on the C Spire text line. What's the difference between clear and pre-check?
Retina scan, you said.
Yeah, retina scan is what you have with clear. You just walk up to the kiosk and it scans your eyes. You've saved a picture in there and automatically populates your information. And the real difference between clear and pre-check is a shorter line. I mean, I'm not so sure that the whole thing's not a money-making scheme because you've got levels, right? You have TSA pre-check, which is the bottom level of expedited screening. And then you have clear, and that's not available in all airports. Bigger airports tend to have clear. And then you have clear plus, which is if you have pre-check and clear, you can go through one line. If you just have clear or pre-check, you go through different lines. Clear plus seems to be the shortest of the lines. And then if you travel internationally, you go with global entry. I don't have global entry because I don't travel internationally very often. If I did, I would have it. I hate to be this guy, but I think I'm going to be this guy. It's simply a convenience fee for frequent travelers. Like if you get on an airplane once a year, then you probably don't think that it's worth it to have pre-check or clear or whatever because you're like, I'll just deal with the hassle of waiting in line, coming and going for one trip. You travel once a month or half a dozen times a year or, once a week, then whatever options are out there that will expedite your process of going through security, you're probably willing to pay for, or your company is probably willing to pay for because it makes the traveling experience a little smoother. And so that's why I say it. I'm not so sure it's not just a money-making operation. Because to me, that's what it is. You are paying a convenience fee to make the whole airport experience go faster. Like I fly out of Memphis, and nine times out of 10, the pre-check line is faster than the general boarding line. They don't have clear in Memphis. Going through security at JFK in New York, I mean, the TSA pre-check line was a mile long still, but the clear line was basically non-existent. Somebody said they did their global entry just last week. Congratulations on your trip abroad. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be going through that. Somebody says you can legally refuse to do the facial scan at security. Absolutely, you can. Absolutely, you can. Just slows it down a little bit. And if you're worried about them storing your facial information somewhere, I would say two things to you. One, that's fine, don't do it. And two, don't pretend like they don't already have your facial scan in the cloud somewhere. They have pictures of you walking in and out. It's fine. But if people having your information, whoever those people are, is of concern to you, or if you're trying to do something nefarious and you want to observe, you want to skip out on that, go for it. But yes, you legally can say no thank you on the them taking your picture at the TSA desk. Absolutely. All right, Ty Pinkins going to join us next on Mornings with Richard Cross. Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters. What are we going to do?
Rise and shine with information and insight. Check it out. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
That don't mean any of this. Still my confession draws you near. To confuse the issue or refer.
Welcome back. Glad to be with you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Quick reminder, SEC Media Days is the unofficial start to the college football season. And Sports Talk Mississippi will be live in Atlanta starting Monday of next week to get you ready for the biggest event of the offseason. It's SEC Media Days, brought to you in part by Pearl River Resort, Trustmark Bank, Cannon Ford Lincoln in Cleveland, Covington County Hospital, and Mississippi Farm Bureau. First guest this morning joins us right now, a candidate for United States Senate, Ty Pinkins, from Rolling Fork, originally describes himself as a son of the Mississippi Delta, 21 years active service in the United States Army. Mr. Pinkins, good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate some of your time this morning. Let's just jump right in. A pretty significant announcement from you in just the last few weeks that you are making a change in terms of political affiliation. Leaving the Democrat Party to become an independent. So not making the full change to the Republican side, but running as for the United States Senate as an independent. How'd you get to that point?
Yeah.
What made you make that decision and announce it?
It wasn't a knee-jerk decision. It was a decision that took me some time to come to over the last few years, and it's not a decision that I made in order for headlines. I decided to leave the Democratic Party and become an independent because I refuse to operate in a system that prioritizes money over people. I was asked more than once about fundraising, more about fundraising and more about money than my values and what's important to Mississippians. And I don't think that's leadership. I think that's gatekeeping. And I decided to announce that I'm running as an independent to represent Mississippians. And more importantly, I think not only in the Democratic Party, but just our political system in general, money has started to play such a significant role that it has now an outsized role over the voices of everyday Mississippians. And I think the way that we get around that is having independent voices on the ballot and in Washington.
That's an interesting answer, and I've heard other people say things that maybe are along those lines. It's fascinating to me. I hear people, when they choose to leave the Democrat Party and then become Republicans, most people are not saying it's because I disagree with where the current Democrat Party stands on issues. Does that play a role in it for you?
Well, no, it's not necessarily the issues. It's that, again, I go back to money is drowning out the issues and the issues that are most important to Mississippians, making sure that they have quality, high-paying jobs, making sure that people in some of our low-income communities have access to health care, making sure that we are taking care of our veterans, making sure that we're taking care of our children. Those things get drowned out when money plays such an outsized role in our politics.
I guess what I'm trying to get to, though, at the core is when you're putting yourself out there as a candidate for senator for Mississippi, that's a big role. Only 2 of those, and our senators have been in place for a long time. I think people want to know, what do you believe in? What do you stand for? Because, and I guess here's what I'm getting at. I feel like, generally speaking, Republican or Democrat, people in Mississippi don't always align with what the national platform for the party is. It's more about what matters to us and what our values are in Mississippi. But the fact is, if there's a D next to your name, then that puts you in the column with a lot of the people that most Mississippians or many Mississippians would think are like the Looney Tunes that are out there on the fringe. They're like, that's not who we are, even though I say I'm a Democrat. Does that make sense?
No, I don't think just because a person has a D beside their name, they're a Looney Tune. Similarly, I don't think that just because a person has an R beside their name, there's some type of right-wing Looney Tune or anything. I don't believe that. I don't. I think generally all of us want the right thing, want the same thing, whether we're Republican, Democrat, black or white, Christian, Muslim, whatever. We want the same thing. We want to be able to take care of our families. We want to be able to protect ourselves. We want to live in safe communities. And I think most importantly, we want to trust our government. And I think that's what's missing today, where Mississippians on both ends of the spectrum don't really trust their elected officials right now. And I think it's up to people like me who are running for office and elected officials to earn that trust back from folks. Some of the things that I support the Second Amendment. I'm a gun owner. I support common sense gun laws. I support a balanced budget, making sure that we take care of and reduce our national debt. And also support.
You can forget about that.
It's blown up, isn't it?
I say it tongue in cheek, but I mean, I'm not sure that it matters who's in office in terms of a balanced budget. Sorry, my apologies for interrupting.
Well, I have to push back a little bit. I think it does make a difference who's in office with regard to trying to balance our budget and trying to take care of our national debt. If you have people who aren't bought and paid for by moneyed interest, or who aren't bought and paid for by lobbyists and big corporations, then they can focus more on attacking that challenge, attacking that issue of our spending being out of control. However, if we have what we have right now, which is a lot of leaders in Washington, not necessarily all of them, but a lot of leaders in Washington who have been bought and paid for, and people know it. People know we have elected leaders who are making laws and at the same time participating in trading stock that are applicable to those same laws that they're voting on. People know that. And when you have people like that in Washington, then balancing the budget and taking care of our national debt, it doesn't come first for those people.
Lance and I talked about you some, not like behind your back. I mean, it was very public.
So you're talking behind my back?
No, not so much. I thought you ran a really good campaign when you ran against Roger Wicker a couple of years ago. I said pretty openly I thought it was an uphill battle and it was going to be very difficult to unseat an incumbent senator, somebody that's been in Congress as long as Roger Wicker was. But I thought that the campaign overall that you ran was really a good one, and was impressed by that. What did you learn in that process, your first run for U.S. Senate?
I learned that we got some really, really good people in this state. Whether you're talking about North Mississippi, South Mississippi, over in the Delta, West Mississippi, East Mississippi, we have some really, really good people who care about this state. And you're right. Running for United States Senate is an uphill battle, but somebody has to climb that hill, and not for individual and selfish reasons, but because that's how our democracy, that's how our process works. When people challenge people in power, it doesn't necessarily mean that Roger Wicker or Cindy Hyde-Smith or Benny Thompson or Trent Kelly, or that any of those people are doing a terrible job. But as voters, as citizens, we have a responsibility to challenge these people to do even better. And what's that? The name of that song Janet Jackson wrote, "What have you done for me lately?" Every 2, 4, 6 years, we deserve someone to get on the ballot and challenge these people. And that does two things. It forces them to remain accountable to voters, but it also gives voters a choice. And the worst thing we can do is not give voters a choice every time they go into the polls. They need a choice, whether that's a terrible choice or a good choice. They deserve a choice, and we have. That's what keeps our democracy and our republic rolling, I believe.
We are a two-party system in the United States. We're a two-party system in Mississippi. It is incredibly rare to see a third-party candidate not only win, but even be competitive in a race. Does that matter to you? In claiming or running as an independent, that history says that makes this nearly impossible?
Well, what matters to me is making sure that voters see something unique. They hear someone talking to them about their issues, whether that person be a Republican, Democrat, or like myself, an independent. And that's why I'm running as an independent. Whether or not history says that it's an uphill battle, that's okay. Our country has faced uphill battles before. We've had candidates that faced uphill battles before, but the most important thing is getting out and talking to voters about the issues that are important to them, which is what I'll be doing today. And I'm going to Yazoo County to knock on doors today, and that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah. You got time to hang with me for a couple more minutes?
Absolutely.
I want to learn a little bit more about you and your background. 21 years serving in the United States Army. I want to hear a little bit about your service, what called you to that, how you were raised, a little bit about your family as well, as we let some of the people in Mississippi get to know you who maybe have seen your name but haven't necessarily heard from you or heard you in your own words. We will continue with Ty Pinkins, candidate for U.S. Senate. He'll be running against Cindy Hyde-Smith, and we'll see if there's a name that pops up on the Democrat side of the ticket as well. More coming up. SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV, and, of course, on your SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations. We're back right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Hey, how's it going, man?
The news you need.
Every 10, 15 minutes, there's something.
The talk you love.
To really talk about the things that matter. I'm into all that stuff.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Forget about me. Don't forget about me.
Visiting with Ty Pinkins, candidate for Senate right here in Mississippi. He'll be running against Cindy Hyde-Smith. I mentioned before the break, potentially a Democrat on the ballot as well. I don't think we know that for sure yet. We got a question on the C Spire text line, and I think it's certainly a reasonable question. Artie in West Point says, okay, you say you're running as an independent. Who would you caucus with?
I think that is an excellent question. You said Artie asked that question? That is an
Artie in West
question.
Point.
Artie in West Point, thank you for that question. And I think that's one of the most important questions for someone who's running as an independent. And the answer to that question, in my mind, it depends on who's in power in Washington, D.C. I think the most powerful place an independent from the state of Mississippi can be is right there in between that narrow majority we have on the elected level, especially in the Senate, when you have the Senate split 50-49 and you have one independent. And then those two parties, which have control power in Washington for so long, now they have to talk to that independent from Mississippi and say, hey, look, caucus with us. And that independent from Mississippi can say, okay, what are we doing for Mississippi? Let me hear you party leaders. Tell me what your platform is. One, how is your platform going to benefit the country? How is it going to move the country forward? And two, does that also align with what Mississippians think is important? So answering that question today is difficult. But what does Congress look like in 2026? And based upon what the two parties say are their platforms and the issues that are important to Mississippi, that'll determine what party I caucus with. And having that leverage, I think, Richard, is what's most important. Mm-hmm. Where you don't have a person like myself, a black guy from Mississippi who caucuses, who previously was a Democrat and would have to toe a specific line and say, and Democrats say, well, this is what the message of today is. This is what the issue of today is. Regardless of whether you agree with it or not, you need to stand in line. And conversely, the same thing on the Republican side in many instances where they say, this is the issue and this is the message of the day. We need you to get in line. This is how we're moving on this. As an independent, caucusing with Republicans or Democrats, as an independent, I can say, hold up a second. That may be your message of the day. That may be your issue of the day. But I need to know, how does that align with Mississippi values?
Interesting answer. Ty Pinkins, candidate for U.S. Senate here in Mississippi. You going to the Neshoba County Fair?
I am. I've been to the Neshoba County Fair for the past 4 years. They're not going to let me talk this year because the midterms aren't until 2026, so they won't let me get on the stage. I was there on the stage last year. I wish I could get on the stage this year. They probably kicked me off before I could say a word, but I'll probably be there.
I said I want to get into your background, and I really do, but we got some questions that are coming in, and I think it's as much as anything, people trying to understand where you stand on some of the issues in terms of border security and immigration-related issues. Where are you on that?
Mm-hmm. Those are important issues, extremely important issues. I think for too long, both parties have failed to implement comprehensive immigration reform. We need border security. People who are here illegally, we have laws, and they need to be deported and to come in the right way. I'm a lawyer. We have laws for a reason, but I also think that we have to do that in a humane way. I don't think we have to crush people in order to do that. But the way that we were doing it before we got into this process now wasn't working. It wasn't. So we do have to try to figure out a way to implement comprehensive immigration reform and border security.
You say you're a lawyer. That probably felt like a bit of a long shot when you were 12, 13 years old to have a law degree from Georgetown, a master's of law, a college degree. Nobody in your family had that. And the military service that I'm assuming it was the military service that ultimately allowed you to achieve those things. Is that accurate?
Well, I'm a Delta boy. I grew up in the Delta in Rolling Fork. Neither of my parents graduated high school. My father only made it to the 6th grade, and my mom made it to the 10th grade. And my dad never even learned how to read. So They instilled in me, and they made sure that I understood how important my education was. And when I went to the military, I loved serving, but one of the perks that came from the military was that I could afford to have an education. And so the military paid for my undergrad degree. They paid for my law degree. They paid for my master's in law and national security law. And it's something that I value because I understand that not everybody has access to the resource that I earned while serving in the military.
We have had a couple of suggestions on the C-Spire text line that the race a lot of people would like to see you in is facing off against Benny Thompson.
Well, a lot of people have asked me that, but I'm focused on the Senate race right now. Okay. I think at the appropriate time, someone will run for the second congressional district seat, and voters will make their decision. They'll either choose to reelect the person that's currently in office, or they'll choose a different option. But that's not the race for me right now. The race that I'm in is running for United States Senate.
Ty Pinkins, I appreciate your time this morning, and I hope we can visit again soon.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you having me on. You have a good day.
You as well. 8 o'clock hour coming up next, right after the news. Ty Pinkins.
Your conversations and clarity. What a great way to start your Mississippi day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I'm a hard-working man. I wear a steel hard hat. I can ride rope, a hammer and paint, do things with my hands that most men can't. I can't get ahead no matter how hard I try. I'm getting really good at barely getting by.
Good to be with you as we roll into the 8 o'clock hour on this Monday morning. No, that's not right. On this Tuesday morning. I mean, it has been, I can't get the date. Now I can't even get the day. Tuesday morning, the 8th of July, 2025. I'm Richard Cross, alongside Lance Tolbert. Thank goodness Joel Anand Samy is here to try and keep me in line. I bet he knows what day and what date it is. Joel, always a pleasure. Appreciate your time this morning. Joel, alongside Natasha, is host of America's Roundtable radio program that you can hear right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and lots of places all around the country. Joel is also involved with the International Leaders Summit. And Joel, I was thinking before during the break and before our conversation begins, like, I know what you do with the radio program and a little bit about International Leaders Summit, but I don't really know what it is that you do.
Well, thank you so much for having me on Super Talk Mississippi Media. It's wonderful. It's always a great joy and privilege to be with you and all the listeners in Mississippi and beyond the borders of Mississippi. And Richard, truly it has been a great season of what we're doing here in Washington, D.C. through the International Leaders Summit, America's Roundtable Radio, and then also our initiatives, including the Jerusalem Leaders Summit. So in the early 2000s, Natasha Sardorch and I, we launched a number of think tanks and specifically advancing reforms in Eastern Europe from that transition from communism to free market economies. We had the privilege and honor of working closely with Milton Friedman, a number of Reaganites, including Dr. Elvin Rabushka from the Reagan's tax policy team, and a host of the others, and really led the flat tax revolution that brought rates down, not only in Eastern Europe, but in Western Europe, that applied pressures to America because the EU average was at 22%.
Well, and certainly there has been a lot of work to focus on. You mentioned the Jerusalem Project. You've been very closely aligned with Israel and some of the coalitions that have been built here in the United States and even here in Mississippi in support of Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, at the White House last night. We saw the video from the dinner table. Also, the video when he and his wife got out of their vehicle and were greeted by Donald Trump. And there is a very real kinship, a very real mutual admiration, it appears, between these two global leaders. What was the focus of this particular meeting, the third time that Netanyahu has been to the White House since Trump has been reelected?
You've stated it well, Richard, in light of the friendship that both President Donald Trump, and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu share. It reminds me of the strong relationship, say, between President Reagan and Lady Thatcher. That special relationship that was established between the UK and the United States. And at this stage here, now we have America strengthening its ties with Israel, a great partner and ally in the Middle East. And so last night's conversation was certainly to focus on, this whole process. I mean, there's a number of initiatives on the table. One, for example, is the issue of Iran, and where there is a ceasefire in place. And Netanyahu was wise to just help our fellow Americans understand that Iran was on its way to building some 20,000 missiles to launching to a country the size of New Jersey. And then as far as, we are concerned, we're very much focusing on what's happening in Gaza at the moment. And President Trump, on his watch, would like to see this come to an end, this conflict in Gaza. In fact, Steve Witkoff is on his way to Doha to be able to engage in direct conversations with Hamas. And so this is a very important next step to bringing an end to the war that began with Iran, actually, on October 7, sponsoring, aiding, assisting groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis to attack Israel, where 1,200 people, citizens, were killed. And so at this stage here, there's some less than 20 hostages remaining that are known to be alive in Gaza, and that's one of the top priorities of Prime Minister Netanyahu as well as President Trump in getting these hostages returned to their families in Israel.
Joel, why is there any reason to believe that a deal can get done with Hamas? Or is this even really about getting a long-term deal done as much as it is about just getting back those remaining hostages? Because Hamas has told us, with their actions, we can't trust them. You can't trust them. Nothing is going to be lasting. Their word is paper thin at best.
Yes, Richard. At the end of the day, what we'd like to see is that Hamas is removed from Gaza. It is a terrorist group, and there are other splinter terrorist groups in Gaza at this very moment. I think the first thing that needs to be achieved is to have a ceasefire, the 60-day period of time where the 18 hostages are returned to Israel, and then focus on what we really are in awe of what President Trump has suggested is to actually have Gaza transformed into perhaps like a Dubai, or other countries in the Gulf states, which have really made great changes. But that cannot happen with a terrorist group, Hamas, there. We certainly want to see Hamas removed. And I think with what President Trump has really suggested is to allow the people of Gaza, just their free choice, to move out of that specific territory in order for Israel and other countries like Saudi Arabia to be able to remove all these undetonated bombs, these explosive remnants of the war, so that people will be able to return to a safe place. I recall being in Vietnam just 25 years after the Vietnam War, and the day that we were right in the Da Nang region, right by the DMZ area, landmines exploded, killing 2 children. And so we know how these things are very dangerous, and President Trump is right, making sure that we clean it up before people are able to return to their homes in Gaza.
Joel, you mentioned Saudi Arabia, and it's such an interesting country to me in terms of its leadership, with Mohammed bin Salman as the crown prince. I don't think there's any doubt that ultimately he's going to be the king of Saudi Arabia. He wields so much power there. There is a legitimate desire from MBS to diversify that Saudi economy, to not become just reliant on oil, but he knows that oil is the catalyst to do all of those things and be able to invest in all of these other things. And yet at the same time, the human rights record for Saudi Arabia, even under MBS's leadership, is at best questionable, but at times awful. Is that something that we just have to look past and recognize that maybe it is a work in progress, or is it just complicated? How do you describe that?
Well, Richard, what is transpiring in the Middle East is amazing, and it is difficult to describe it in words, but having been in the Middle East and having spent time on the Arabian Peninsula over the past decade and a half and seeing the changes there, it's unbelievable. And it's not just only the tall buildings that we see in Bahrain, UAE, Qatar, or even within Saudi Arabia, but it's the changes that leaders, reform leaders, a new generation of leaders in the Middle East are bringing forward, like Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, as you've rightfully stated, as he's called in the region. So what MBS has done is not just only focusing on diversifying Saudi Arabia's economy, but really working on internal reforms. And yes, the media reports have not been very pleasant, but the truth of the matter is that what we have seen in Saudi Arabia is an important transformation taking place, where they're moving away from what we had seen in the past of this very radical movement within Saudi Arabia and much of the Middle East and beyond of Wahhabism, and then moving towards more of a moderation and allowing and empowering women in Saudi Arabia to obtain positions in the academia, in government. In fact, Saudi Arabia's top diplomat to Washington, D.C. is a woman in leadership. And that's not just only for the United States, but for other countries as well. So we are seeing a new day in Saudi Arabia, and having been in the region, seeing this transformation is amazing. And in fact, we are pleased to relay that we look forward to hosting the United States-Saudi Arabia Leaders Summit in the months to come. We've been invited by leaders in the region to do so, and we look forward to bringing leaders from the business sector to be a part of this endeavor.
Joel, you got time to hang with me for a few more minutes, or do you need to run?
In fact, it'll be a great honor and privilege to hang out with you for these next few moments. Absolutely.
Sounds great. We'll take this conversation a little bit deeper on the other side of this break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi, with Joel and Anand Samy from America's Roundtable. We're back right after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
You're waking up to what matters. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Working from one end to the other, and all points in between.
Thanks for being with us. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Joel Anand Samy is my guest. He is host of America's Roundtable. You can hear that on the weekends here on Super Talk, Mississippi. Also, co-founder of the International Leaders Summit, and just mentioned that on the horizon, a U.S.-Saudi Leaders Summit that hopefully we'll hear more about in the weeks to come. So, Joel, we were talking a little bit about Saudi Arabia, and it's such a complicated issue, and yet there are a lot of people that paint the relationship with the Saudis as black and white, as in we are good, they are bad, and anything other than that is disingenuous, and it's just a money grab. I think specifically about golf and the role that the Saudis have played in investing in sports, whether it's the Live Golf Tour or European soccer or other things. And people are quick to say this is sports washing, that they are trying to cover their humanitarian crimes by reaching out to people's passions through sports. And there may be an element of truth to that. There may be a large element of truth to that. But I'm curious if it's maybe at a different level, an attempt at normalization, a step toward trying to eradicate some of the bad and move, but because it can't all happen at once, right? I mean, it has to be a linear progression for the Saudis to change who they have been for hundreds, if not thousands of years, into what they would like to become. Does that make any sense?
You've really brought forth a very important topic, Richard, and it's so true. As you've mentioned about this linear progression that's taking place in Saudi Arabia, we're seeing this evolving in the Arab states, not just only Saudi Arabia, but UAE, Bahrain. For example, in the sporting industry, these countries are making an investment. Yes, certainly it has created controversy on the golfing arena and also in soccer, for example. But on the long term, what I believe that the Saudis and other countries in the region are doing are looking at good investments. And of course, sports and entertainment are growth industries. Tourism, for example, is a huge industry that's growing globally. And we have to really understand how tourism works too. People are traveling more than ever before since the pandemic days. Individuals are traveling over to UAE. There's so many entertainment centers, one of the largest malls in the world. Things are changing rapidly. And MBS in Saudi Arabia is actually an agent of change. He is really moving things at warp speed, reforming institutions, which is not an easy task by any means. And then at the same time, working with their sovereign wealth funds in making the right kinds of investments. They've partnered with Jared Kushner, for example. They've been able to engage America. And I think America has to look at this not just only from a very parochial perspective, but Saudi Arabia is a gateway to 400 million Arab consumers. So as a country of over 330 million people, for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and even the larger corporations, that's a whole new marketplace for the American business sector. And also, peace and prosperity is something that MBS truly believes in. And I think that at the end of the day, we will see the Abraham Accords signed between Israel, Saudi Arabia, America, all coming together. And there's another element to this here with the demographic changes taking place on the Arabian Peninsula, which many people do not know about. For example, in UAE, Bahrain, and some of these other countries, the population has changed. So you have some 50% of individuals in UAE, in Bahrain, that are from South Asia, from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, that are not just only working to build the infrastructure, but are involved in the financial sector, in high tech, and in medicine. So some of the best hospitals and medical facilities in the world are not necessarily in America. They are in UAE. So things are changing. Health tourism will be a big thing in the years to come. And America has a good competition in that aspect of it as well.
Something that I've seen recently in some of the social media landscape is some of the MAGA influencers or right-wing influencers, if you will, pointing to a threat to the United States that's not being talked about. Islam is the second largest religion in the world. We know that Islam in and of itself is not evil and does not preach war, but we have seen this bastardization of Islam that has happened over time, where people have co-opted that for evil and for justification of jihad and all of these things. But as Islam populations grow in the United States, there are people that have said, hey, that's the biggest threat to the United States. We've seen it in major cities in Europe, that massive Muslim population that has grown in London. We're seeing it in New York City with the growth of the Muslim population and the mayoral candidate there. How big of a concern is that to you?
Well, I think even Arab leaders, such as MBS and the foreign minister of UAE, basically communicated to journalists when they were trying to downplay, these are left-leaning journalists, about the radical form of Islam that has emerged in the West, especially in Europe, and now we're seeing in America, and specifically, like you've mentioned, in New York City. These leaders in the Gulf states are saying, listen, America, Europe, be careful about this radicalization of Islam. Even these countries have really worked to de-radicalize the Islamic religion from its efforts on, or its insidious work on this massive terrorism front and all of that, to focusing on peace and prosperity. So for America, I think we as Americans uphold the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. And when individuals come to the United States of America and become citizens, they take an oath, and that oath is to the U.S. they take an oath to the U.S. Constitution to uphold it, and this is so sacred, and I think it's so important for us to remind ourselves that individuals coming to America certainly have to be focused on assimilation rather than creating these havens of radicalization, as we're seeing what's happening in New York City with an individual by the name of Mamdani calling for a global intifada. And that certainly is not just wrong, it's unacceptable. It's immoral. And we need to call it out when we see that. And Americans need to certainly work together to make sure that our motto is upheld, out of many, one. E pluribus unum.
Well said. Well said. Our time is running out with Joel Anand Samy. I would ask you about this story that has just broken as we wrap things up. More fighting in Gaza this morning. Deaths on both sides. 5 Israeli military, 19 Palestinians. Can it ever end? Can it? I know that's what we're talking about and debating and negotiating. Can it ever end?
In fact, I think we're seeing the final chapter being written. This is certainly very disconcerting and troubling to see so many young men from the IDF being killed by Hamas terrorists. And I think that certain groups and factions may want to create havoc, but we're coming to a conclusion. And that conclusion in Gaza will mean no more Hamas. And it's time for countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, and others to join forces with America and Israel to form a new governing structure for a period of time, just like Germany had it with denazification. We need to see that de-radicalization take place in Gaza, a new educational curriculum being put together, a new governing structure, not Hamas, but others leading it to a new, brighter future for the people of Gaza and the region.
Joel, your insight is always, I'm grateful for it. I enjoy our conversations, and it was good to dig in a little bit this morning. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to visiting with you soon.
Thank you so much indeed. Appreciate being with you all. Blessings to you. Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Joel. I appreciate that very much. Joel Anand Samy, host of America's Roundtable. You can hear it on the weekends here on SuperTalk Mississippi, also co-founder of the International Leaders Summit. Dug in a little bit there. Middle East, America relations, Middle East relations within the borders of the countries themselves. Man, it's complicated. Really, really complicated because you're looking at hundreds, if not thousands of years of history there, and very divergent mindsets within those countries. Thanks to Joel for joining me this morning. Half an hour left with you. Still got plenty to get to. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We're back after this.
From the Super.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Appreciate you being with us on Mornings with Richard Cross right here on Super Talk Mississippi. Always a pleasure to spend the start of the day with you. Hope your day is off to a good start as well. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I am Richard Cross, and we appreciate you joining us. We welcome you to the conversation on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. In sports and business, having the right team behind you matters. Partner with C Spire today for business solutions from dedicated, certified IT engineers. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. The Elon problem. Go a lot of different directions in that. So we've got the announcement from Elon Musk that he is going to, or is forming or has formed the America Party, a third party in the United States. My question is, to what end? Is this an ego play? Is it a frustration play? Is it a vanity play? I guess vanity and ego would go together. Is it a power play? Does it have a chance to affect elections and outcomes going forward? Here's what we know about third parties, right? What's the most recent significant third party in the United States? I mean, we understand libertarians, they never win anything. The last time a third party candidate really affected the outcome of an election was 1992, right? When Ross Perot jumped in.
Well, and would you even consider that a third party, more of an independent? But I get where you're going with that, yeah. But the third party doesn't seem to work well.
Yeah, I mean, if you classify an independent as a third party, then yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the way to do it. So George H.W. Bush, elected in '88, has the Desert Shield, Desert Storm on the resume, running for re-election in '92, tight race with Bill Clinton, and you've got Ross Perot in there. For those of you that are sending me Ross Perot, that's where I was headed with this all along. It was in terms of like classifying what the party itself was, but Perot was more of an independent, very, very successful businessman in the state of Texas. Little skinny old dude with big ears and high-pitched voice. But he had reasonable ideas. And the Clinton era was ushered in because of Ross Perot's candidacy for president.
Well, and he was a little all over the place as well with his candidacy. He was a candidate and running, and then he wasn't, and then he came back months later, and by then, momentum had been lost a bit on his side, but it was more of a hamstringing to the Republicans than help in any way, because had I think he ran the campaign as he should have, maybe he would have split the ticket down, maybe 33. It didn't work out that way, though. So, the ability to force an independent in didn't work,
Here's the issue. George H.W. Bush lost that race because of Ross Perot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He lost by 5 million votes, 5.5 million votes, to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had 44.9 million votes. George H.W. Bush had 39.1. Ross Perot got 19 million votes.
Yeah, and he would have gotten a lot more than that if he'd have stuck with it for longer. But the story behind that's a fascinating one, too, whether he was blackmailed or bribed out of the race for a while and came back. And, it's an interesting story because had he stayed in the race, had he pushed through, he likely would have garnered much more than the total that he pulled.
Yeah.
Which would have split the tickets. It would have really broken up the dominance of the two-party state.
Oh, but don't you think though that the majority of the people that voted for Ross Perot would have voted for Bush?
I think that most would, but at the time in that era as well, the Democrat Party was not near as far off to the left. So
no, it was not.
You had a lot of moderates in there that had jumped across the aisle a great deal, and Perot seemed to offer that to both, and then was such a squirrely candidate, though, that no one – I don't believe the power behind either of those sides were able to get behind him. It's like a lot of people say with Trump, well, he was wishy-washy on this. He does this and goes back to that. Perot was the expert on wishy-washy. So I don't know how seriously he was taken, but yes, those that voted for him, it would have been a landslide for Bush had they not voted for Perot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
definitely.
look, let's say, 19.7 million votes for Ross Perot. If you shift, I don't know, 25% of those votes to Clinton, and the other 75% to Bush, Bush wins in a landslide.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Clinton still carries his home state of Arkansas. He probably still carries Tennessee with Al Gore as his running mate. He doesn't carry Louisiana, I don't think. I don't think he carries Georgia. I don't think he carries Kentucky. Anyway.
It's a good point, though.
But we've gotten way off in the weeds because the question is, what about Elon? So what is it that Elon Musk wants to accomplish, and is there any scenario where it's good for Republicans?
Likely not.
No.
I don't think so. Who are your candidates? Who are you running out there? What are the names and who's the power behind the party?
Now, Elon, to his credit, I guess, said, "Look, we're not running a presidential candidate. This is about targeting a few Senate districts, a few House districts." Oh, he said he's going to pump a bunch of money into Thomas Massey's campaign. All right. I know there's some Thomas Massey stands out there that regardless of, like, he is the standard because he stands by what he says he's going to do, and he's really a fiscal hawk. And man, I think Thomas Massey is as fake as the rest of them. I don't dislike Thomas Massey. I'm fascinated by his story. I agree with some of what he believes. But Thomas Massey's no different than the rest of the Washington crew. He voted when he had to vote to advance the big, beautiful bill into a scenario where he could save face by voting against it, and the bill would still pass. The president got what he wanted. I'm sure Thomas Massey got something of what he wanted for the people of Kentucky. He played the game beautifully, I would argue. Now, we don't know behind the scenes what Thomas Massey got for that for that vote to keep it alive, right? I
think he got 12 lay-in chickens.
Well, maybe. I mean, he needed to. But look, Thomas Massey did the same thing that Lisa Murkowski did in the Senate. Mm-hmm. Murkowski's like, I'm not voting for this. I'm not voting for this. Well, what have we got to do to get your vote? Because we have to have your vote to get to a point where where J.D. Vance can be the tie-breaking vote. We got to have it. And she said, well, I need this and this and this for Alaska. And they're like, done. Will you vote for it? Yes, I'll vote for it. Boom. Carried on. And then she goes, she's like, there's a lot of stuff that I really don't like in this bill and I really don't agree with in this bill, but my job is to serve the interests of my constituents in Alaska, and this is what I got. And that's what she's going to go home and sell to Alaska. She's going to say, hey, this is what I got for you. I fought when it wasn't fun. There was all kinds of pressure on me to cave, and I would not cave until I got this for Alaska. Thomas Massie better be able to go back to the Commonwealth of Kentucky and show Kentuckians what he got for them. Because ultimately he voted against the bill. Now, it passes regardless, and you've had Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, say this is the worst piece of legislation in the history of the world, and it's terrible for Kentuckians, and all of that stuff. But again, we're talking about what does a third party mean? What is the end game? I was, the guy from Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, Canadian dude? Isn't he Canadian? Yeah, bald-headed guy, Mr. Wonderful.
I don't know if he's Canadian.
I'm pretty sure he is.
You're talking about Kevin O'Leary, yeah?
Yeah, Kevin O'Leary.
I think he's Canadian. Yeah, Canadian investor, entrepreneur, and TV personality.
Yeah, I thought Kevin O'Leary was onto something on X last night when he's like, look, nobody wins in this kerfluffle between Trump and Elon. They've got to get together. And he said he would even broker the deal himself. This was the post. Trump and Elon have to get back together. Frankly, I'm thinking of calling both up myself and saying, this is stupid. This is bad for America. We need the number one industrialist, the most advanced in technology worldwide, working with the most powerful man on earth. It doesn't matter about politics anymore. What matters that these two are working together. These are giant egos, and it's not good for America. It's just bad. We don't need a third party. Ross Perot tried that. Bad idea. It's all bad. These two guys have to get together. I'm not the only person that feels this way in his inner circle where everybody knows this is bad.
From the Venable Glass.
And now, Mornings with Richard Cross.
What's up? Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
I went home with a waitress, the way I always do. How was I to know?
All right. Thanks for being with us this morning. There is somewhat breaking news as we wrap things up. Secretary Rollins, that is the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, is making an announcement about farm-related stuff. And the lead here is that the first of the announces USDA's 7-point National Farm Security Action Plan. Then she says the first of the 7 is securing and protecting American farmland ownership, actively engaging at every level of government to ban the purchase of American farmland by Chinese nationals and other foreign adversaries. Okay. There's a lot that's got to be done. That's part of it. We will talk about this more tomorrow, I promise. We'll kind of let this press conference play out and see what comes. Cabinet meeting that's happening at in D.C. at 10 o'clock this morning appears to have been kind of a late called cabinet meeting. All kinds of speculation as to what that means and what they're going to be covering this morning. I want to wrap up here today. And this is something that I've been giving a lot of thought to. And you may push back on the idea. But we got a message a second ago that said, I'm behind someone who will quit freaking spending our country into oblivion. $30+ trillion in debt. We've got to stop spending.
And it's your money they're spending, not theirs.
That is correct. That is correct. And no, that was not Thomas that sent that message, but I think Thomas probably would co-sign on that. Thomas sent us a message this morning as, pro-Thomas Massie and all these things. So I don't disagree with you I don't. But politics in the United States it's not a zero-sum game. I've talked before about a class that I took in college, International Conflict in the Nuclear Age. And there's this concept called MAD when it comes to the launch of a nuclear weapon. Mutually assured destruction. Zero sum. Right? There is no winner. That's not what politics is today. Politics in the United States at the congressional level, whether we like it or not, and I'm not saying that it can't change, but I'm kind of saying that it can't change. D.C. is so ingrained in itself. There's so much that we don't see and that we don't know about it. I'm not talking about just how the sausage is made. I'm talking about, I guess I'm talking about the deep state. Like the shadow government that exists in D.C. So, if you're like, vote them all out. We got to get new ones. We got to change it. Probably not really going to change it. So here's what I'm saying. You don't go into a game expecting to lose, right? You want to win. But sometimes you got to take small wins. And sometimes not losing is a win in and of itself. So you don't like the one big beautiful bill. Maybe you like aspects of it. Maybe you like parts of the one big beautiful bill. But on the whole, it's going to increase the deficit, going to continue to do deficit spending. It's going to increase the debt load over time, and that is not just off-putting to you, but it's so stinky you just can't stand it. What's the alternative? The alternative is Democrats win the presidency. Democrats win control of the House, win control of the Senate. They have a majority. What do you think their big, beautiful bill would have looked like? What do you hear Mom Dami talking about in New York City?
I think we would be Guatemala. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk right now about the Democrat strategy ultimately within the deepest parts of the Democrat Party is get as many people into the country so that you overwhelm the electoral system to a point that Republicans can never win another national election. I know never's a long time. I get it. That's what the border policies have been about. It's about taking states that sometimes are red, sometimes are blue, making sure that they're blue so that there is not a roadmap in our current electoral system to allow Republicans to win, and then they can enact the policies that they want. Are those the policies you want? So maybe you don't love the big, beautiful bill, but I promise if you're a Republican, it's a heck of a lot better than the alternative. We'll leave it there for today. Back with you tomorrow morning just after 6 o'clock. It's Mornings with Richard Cross.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.